You did what? To Earth? High Commander Zixtal's crystalline appendages trembled with barely contained rage as they refracted the harsh light of the command bridge. We, deployed the Ravager beasts, sir, Lieutenant Kree stammered, his secondary breathing sacs inflating rapidly with anxiety. The analysis showed the humans were only a Category 3 civilization. The Ravagers should have what? Succeeded? Like they did on all those other primitive worlds? The High Commander's crystalline form shifted to a deep crimson. Tell me, Lieutenant, did you actually read the full species report, or did you just look at their technological classification? Kree's tentacles twisted uncomfortably. Well, sir, I may have skimmed it, but their weapon systems were so primitive. They still use chemical propulsion for space travel, for Void's sake. Pull up the human response footage, now. Zixtal's voice had gone deadly quiet. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the surface of the human world called Earth. The first few minutes were exactly what they'd expected. Chaos and panic as the massive Ravager deployment pods crashed through the atmosphere. The crystalline beings watched as the massive, rhinoceros-sized predators emerged, their armored hides gleaming and their multiple rows of serrated teeth glinting in Earth's yellow sunlight. Then things started going differently. Is that human riding one of our Ravagers? Kree asked incredulously, his color shifting to a confused mauve. Keep watching, Zixtal said grimly. The footage continued. Somewhere in a region the humans called Texas, a group of them had already organized what they termed a rodeo competition, featuring captured Ravagers. In Australia, the locals had apparently decided the massive predators weren't nearly as concerning as their regular wildlife, and had begun organizing guided Ravager hunting tours. The footage from Russia was perhaps the most disturbing, showing humans actually attempting to domesticate the beasts and keep them as pets. Sir, one of the bridge analysts called out. I'm picking up something strange from their primitive information network. They're selling Ravager merchandise. They're what? Kree's crystalline structure nearly shattered from shock. Plush toys, t-shirts, something called memes. Oh, and it seems multiple human entertainment companies are fighting over the rights to make something called a movie franchise about our invasion attempt. The High Commander's form cycled through several colors before settling on a resigned blue-gray. And this, Lieutenant Kree, is why we read the full reports. The technological classification tells you what they can do. The species analysis tells you who they are. They gestured to another section of the view screen. Would you like to see what happened to the Ravagers we dropped in a place called Florida? Kree quickly shook his crystalline central mass in the negative. He'd seen enough. Sir, the analyst interrupted again. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're asking if we'd be willing to supply more Ravagers. Apparently they're organizing some sort of global competitive league, and they need enough beasts for all the major teams. The High Commander's form briefly flickered to a color that hadn't been seen in their species for generations. The precise shade of completely done with this situation that their ancestors had used to express total exasperation. Lieutenant Kree, do you know why the humans were classified as only Category 3 technologically? Zixtal asked, their voice dripping with crystalline sarcasm. No, sir, Kree admitted, because they're too busy doing absolutely insane things like this to focus on technological advancement. Do you know what they did before they had our Ravagers to ride? They found the largest, most dangerous animals on their own world and said, I'm going to get on that thing's back and make it run in circles. For fun. The view screen shifted again, showing humans participating in something called bull riding. Kree's crystalline matrix paled considerably. These beings looked at our ultimate biological weapons, literal monsters engineered for war, and said, neat, let's turn this into a sport. They're treating an invasion force like it's a new toy, and now they want more. What do we do, sir? Kree asked, his voice barely a whisper. The High Commander stared at the latest footage, which showed a human child apparently teaching a Ravager to play fetch with what appeared to be a large tree trunk. We're going to do the only sensible thing, Lieutenant. We're going to file this under mistakes were made and never speak of it again. And then we're going to update the species classification database with a very important note. Do not give humans access to any more potentially rideable creatures. They have enough already. This is not a suggestion. This is for the safety and dignity of all species involved. And the humans' request for more Ravagers, sir? Tell them. Zixtal paused, watching as the footage showed a Ravager apparently participating in something called a talent show, wearing what appeared to be a bow tie. Tell them that our war beasts are not meant to dance the choreography to something called stayin' alive, and that we respectfully decline to enable any more of whatever this is. Yes, sir. Kree turned to leave, then paused. Sir, what should I do with the messages from their Hollywood asking about licensing rights? The High Commander's crystalline form briefly displayed the color of existential crisis before settling back to its normal hue. Forward them to legal. At least maybe we can get something out of this debacle. And Kree? Yes, sir? Next time, read the whole report, especially the parts about human psychological profiles and their disturbing tendency to try to pet literally anything, no matter how many teeth it has. Understood, sir. Very understood. As Kree left the bridge, the final footage showed a Ravager, one of their species' most feared biological weapons, wearing a flower crown and participating in something called a TikTok challenge. The High Commander decided that some drinks of the strongest molecular destabilizer were definitely in order. Somewhere on Earth, a human was probably trying to teach a Ravager to play the piano, and knowing humans, they'd probably succeed. The galaxy would never be the same, but at least humanity was having fun with their new pets. 6 months after the Great Ravager Deployment Incident, as it was now officially termed in galactic records, High Commander Zixtal found themselves reviewing yet another series of reports from Earth. Each one was more bewildering than the last. They've done what now? They asked, their crystalline structure flickering between disbelief and resignation. Senior Analyst Veerpak, who had replaced the reassigned Lieutenant Kree, consulted their data stream. It appears, sir, that the humans have established what they call the International Ravager Racing Federation. They've developed standardized rules for competitive Ravager racing, including something called dressage, which, as far as we can tell, involves making our war beasts dance to classical music. The High Commander's form briefly displayed the newly documented color of "Why is this my problem?" before stabilizing. And the betting revenues? Astronomical, sir. Several human economies have experienced significant boosts. The Federation is now considered a major sporting body, and they're pushing for Ravager racing to be included in something called the Olympics. The situation with the offspring? Zixtal asked, dreading the answer. Ah, yes. Veerpak's crystalline edges tinged with embarrassment. It seems the humans discovered that Ravagers are actually quite good with children. Several educational institutions have started Ravager reading programs, where young humans practice reading aloud to the beasts. Apparently, the Ravager's natural ability to remain perfectly still while stalking prey translates well to being an attentive audience. Of course it does, the High Commander muttered. Any other developments I should know about? Well, sir, there's the matter of the movie deal. By the Void, they actually made one? 3, actually. The first one, Ravager Park, was a massive success. The sequel, The Lost World Ravager Park, is currently in production. And there's an animated series for young humans called Randy the Friendly Ravager that's trending globally. The High Commander's form briefly displayed a color that their species hadn't used since the invention of intoxicating substances. Please tell me that's all. There is one more thing, sir. Veerpak's crystal matrix shifted nervously. It seems some humans have started a breeding program. They're breeding them? Yes, sir. They're calling them designer Ravagers. They've already developed several distinct breeds, including a miniaturized version they're marketing as pocket Ravagers for urban-dwelling humans. Veerpak displayed several images showing significantly smaller Ravagers, some barely larger than human domestic canines, many sporting colorful patterns that would have made their warbeast ancestors die of shame. Those were supposed to be sterile, Zixtal exclaimed. They were, sir. The humans just figured it out. Apparently they have extensive experience in selective breeding, something about what they did with wolves a few thousand years ago. The High Commander accessed their species' historical database. After reviewing Earth's domesticated canines, their crystalline structure briefly displayed the color of profound existential dread. Sir, Veerpak ventured carefully, there's also the matter of the diplomatic request. What diplomatic request? Earth's recently formed United Ravager Relations Council is requesting official recognition as a partner species in Ravager development and care. They've submitted quite an extensive portfolio, including veterinary advances, behavioral studies, and something called agility training, that frankly we didn't think Ravagers were capable of. Zixtal stared at the latest footage, which showed a Ravager delicately carrying a tray of beverages through an obstacle course without spilling a drop. Are those cocktails? Yes, sir. From something called the Annual Ravager Waitstaff Competition. The winning beast, Mr. Snuggles, has apparently received multiple job offers from high-end human establishments. The High Commander's form cycled through several newly documented colors before settling on a shade that could only be described as bureaucratic surrender. Draft a response to their council. Tell them we're willing to discuss partnership terms. Zixtal paused, watching as the footage showed a Ravager in a graduation cap receiving some sort of certification. And find out who's responsible for their training programs. The military command might want to take notes. Sir, Veerpak asked, surprised. Well, if they can teach a Ravager to make a proper martini, imagine what they could do with actual military training beasts. The High Commander's crystal matrix shifted to a contemplative blue, though perhaps we should wait to see how their Ravager Olympics goes first. Very wise, sir. Oh, and one final thing. The humans have announced the theme for this year's Ravager Fashion Week. Their what? It's called Couture and Claws, where savage meets sophisticated. Veerpak displayed an image of a Ravager wearing what appeared to be a designer suit and a monocle. The High Commander decided that some things were better left unquestioned. Update the species classification database again. Add a note. Humans will not only try to pet anything, they will also attempt to dress it in formal wear. Consider this before deployment of any biological assets. Yes, sir. And the invitation to judge the fashion show? Tell them I'm busy that day, for all days, forever. Zixtal paused. But send them my size chart anyway, just in case. As Veerpak left the bridge, the final footage showed a Ravager participating in what appeared to be a synchronized swimming competition. The High Commander decided it was time to seriously consider retirement. Somewhere on Earth, a human was probably teaching a Ravager to play chess. And knowing humans, the beast would probably be competing in international tournaments by next week. One standard galactic year after the initial incident, High Commander Zixtal found themselves addressing the Council of Advanced Species regarding what had become known as the human situation. Distinguished members of the Council, they began, their crystalline form maintained in a carefully neutral shade of professional blue. I come before you today to discuss recent developments regarding Earth and the Ravager deployment incident. Yes, Chief Counselor Merxit purred, her feline features arranged in what might have been amusement. The planet where our most fearsome biological weapons became entertainment celebrities. Please, continue. Zixtal's form flickered briefly before stabilizing. The situation has evolved. The humans have submitted a formal proposal to establish what they're calling the Intergalactic Ravager Exchange Program. Exchange program? Another council member, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, leaned forward. What exactly do they wish to exchange? They want to send us their Ravager training experts in return for access to our historical Ravager development data. Zixtal paused, their crystal matrix shifting slightly. They claim they've made several improvements to the base species that might be of interest to our military sciences division. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of various alien expressions of disbelief. Improvements? Merxit's tail twitched with interest. What kind of improvements? Zixtal activated the chamber's holographic display system. This footage was taken at their most recent International Ravager exhibition. The assembled council watched as a Ravager, wearing what appeared to be tactical armor color-coordinated with its handler's uniform, methodically worked its way through an obstacle course that would have challenged most Special Forces units. The beast moved with a precision that seemed impossible for its size, following complex command patterns and even using basic tools. Is that Ravager using a grappling hook? Someone asked incredulously. Yes, Zixtal confirmed. They've developed specialized equipment for what they call search and rescue Ravagers. This particular unit is part of their emergency response teams. They switched to another video feed. And this is from their military cooperation program. The new footage showed Ravagers working in coordinated teams, using tactics that even the Council's military experts had to admit were impressive. One beast was clearly operating as a medical support unit, carrying supplies and helping to evacuate training dummies from a simulated disaster zone. They've weaponized their tendency to form emotional bonds, Zixtal explained. By encouraging the Ravagers' natural pack instincts and redirecting their protective behaviors, they've created units that are not just effective in combat scenarios, but also in humanitarian operations. And how did they achieve this? The energy being's shell hummed with curiosity. Apparently through a combination of positive reinforcement and something they call belly rubs. Zixtal's form briefly displayed the color of professional embarrassment before continuing. Their training methods are unorthodox, but the results are undeniable. The next series of images showed Ravagers in various specialized roles, monitoring environmental conditions in dangerous areas, assisting in construction projects, and even helping with deep-sea exploration. They've developed specialized breeds for different purposes, Zixtal continued. The Arctic Rescue Ravager has enhanced thermal regulation and webbed claws for snow travel. The Marine Response Ravager has modified respiratory capabilities for underwater operations, and then there's the... They paused, their crystal matrix displaying a brief moment of, "Why am I having to say this out loud?" "Yes?" Mr. Exit prompted, clearly enjoying the High Commander's discomfort. The Therapy Ravager, Zixtal finally managed, specifically bred for emotional support work and mental health services. They're apparently very good at detecting anxiety and providing comfort. Something about their purring frequency being particularly soothing to humans. They made them purr? Merxit's own purr hitched with surprise. Among other things, their genetic modification programs have been creative. Zixtal displayed another series of images showing Ravagers in various sizes and configurations, all seemingly designed for specific purposes. They've even developed a miniaturized strain specifically for urban environments and space station operations. The council chamber filled with murmurs as the members discussed this unprecedented development. "And now they want to share this knowledge?" the energy being asked. "Yes. In exchange for access to our original research, they're offering their training protocols, genetic modification data, and something called the Complete Guide to Ravager Care and Enrichment Activities." Zixtal's form shifted to display bands of professional resignation. "They've also invited us to something called the first annual Intergalactic Ravager Show and Competition." "A competition?" several council members asked simultaneously. "Yes. Apparently they want to establish official sporting events between human-trained Ravagers and our military units. They seem quite confident about their chances." The council chamber erupted in discussions again, this time with a distinctly competitive edge. "High Commander," Mercit spoke after order was restored. "What is your recommendation regarding this proposal?" Zixtal's crystal matrix cycled through several professional shades before settling on a color that could only be described as pragmatic acceptance. "Given the humans' demonstrated ability to not only survive our biological weapons, but to improve upon them in ways we never considered, I recommend we accept their offer of cooperation. If nothing else, it would be better to have them working with us, rather than independently developing even more innovations." "Such as?" another council member prompted. "Well," Zixtal's form flickered uncomfortably. "Their entertainment division has already begun production on something called Dancing with the Ravagers, and I'd rather we had some input before that concept spreads to other worlds." The council chamber fell silent as the implications of weaponized war beasts performing choreographed dance routines across the galaxy sank in. "Motion to approve the exchange program?" Murarext asked, her tail now twitching with barely contained amusement. The vote was unanimously in favor. "Very well," the chief counselor declared. "The exchange program is approved. And High Commander?" "Yes, Counselor?" "Do send us tickets to that dance show, for diplomatic purposes, of course." As Zixtal left the council chamber, they received a new report from Earth. Apparently, someone had taught a Ravager to paint, and its abstract works were selling for astronomical sums in human art galleries. The High Commander decided it was time to start taking those art appreciation classes they'd been putting off. Just in case, somewhere on Earth, a human was probably teaching a Ravager to compose poetry. And knowing humans, it would probably win a literary prize by next month. 2 standard galactic years after the initial incident, High Commander Zixtal found themselves attending the opening ceremony of the first Intergalactic Ravager Academy on Earth. Their crystalline form maintained a dignified diplomatic blue despite the barely contained chaos around them. And here, Dr. Sarah Chen, the Academy's director, gestured enthusiastically, "is our Advanced Behavioral Studies wing. We're currently running a fascinating project on Ravager problem-solving capabilities." Through the observation window, they watched as a Ravager methodically worked through what appeared to be a complex puzzle box. The beast carefully manipulated various mechanisms until it successfully retrieved its reward, a device that the humans called a squeaky toy. "Impressive," Zixtal admitted, their crystal matrix shifting to display bands of genuine interest. "Though I must ask about the unusual decor." "Oh, the motivational posters?" Dr. Chen smiled. The Ravagers respond well to positive reinforcement imagery, and they seem particularly fond of that one that says "hang in there" with the kitten. Before Zixtal could process that particular piece of information, their attention was drawn to a commotion in the adjacent training yard. A group of Ravagers was participating in what appeared to be a coordinated exercise routine, complete with synchronized movements and what humans called yoga poses. That's our wellness program, Dr. Chen explained. We've found that regular exercise and meditation significantly improve Ravager temperament. The morning Tai Chi sessions are particularly popular. The High Commander's form briefly flickered to a shade of professional bewilderment before stabilizing. And the ones wearing the accessories? The graduation caps? Those are our senior training assistants. They help acclimate new Ravagers to the Academy's routines. Dr. Chen consulted her tablet. Actually, I believe you're familiar with one of them. Mr. Snuggles, the cocktail specialist? Indeed, there was the infamous Mr. Snuggles, now sporting both his signature bow tie and what appeared to be reading glasses, demonstrating proper posture to a group of younger Ravagers. He's heading our hospitality services program now, Dr. Chen continued proudly. Though he still does occasional guest appearances at high-end establishments, his martinis are legendary. Before Zixtal could respond, an alert sounded through the facility. Dr. Chen quickly checked her communications device. Oh, perfect timing. Would you like to observe one of our emergency response drills? The High Commander watched in amazement as the previously peaceful scene transformed into a model of efficiency. Ravagers of various specialized breeds moved with practiced precision, each performing their designated roles. Search and rescue units deployed with their equipment, medical support Ravagers prepared their supply kits, and environmental assessment teams began their systematic sweep of the designated area. Is that Ravager operating a drone? Zixtal asked, their crystal matrix displaying bands of disbelief. Yes, that's part of our tech integration program. We've found that Ravagers have an unexpected aptitude for certain types of human technology. Though we did have to redesign the control interfaces to accommodate their claws. The demonstration continued, showing increasingly sophisticated levels of cooperation between human and Ravager teams. One particularly large specimen was even providing mobile support for a field medical station, its modified armor incorporating solar panels and emergency power supplies. And this is just the basic certification course, Dr. Chen added. You should see our advanced programs. There's more? Zixtal's form shifted through several professional shades. Oh yes, we're particularly excited about our space adaptation program. Several Ravagers have already completed their zero-gravity training, and we're working on specialized suits for orbital operations. The High Commander's crystal matrix briefly displayed the color of existential implications before returning to diplomatic blue. You're planning to take them into space? Well, they did come from space originally, Dr. Chen pointed out reasonably. We're just helping them expand their career opportunities. In fact, several space agencies have already expressed interest in our orbital support Ravager program. As if on cue, the observation window displayed a training session for said program. A Ravager in a custom-designed spacesuit was demonstrating remarkable precision in a simulated zero-gravity environment, efficiently managing tools and equipment while maintaining perfect position control. We call that one Major Tom, Dr. Chen said proudly. He's already been selected for our first orbital mission, though we're still working on convincing him that chasing satellites is not part of the job description. Zixtal watched as Major Tom executed a perfect series of maintenance procedures on a mock satellite array, then celebrated his success by doing what appeared to be a zero-gravity backflip. Director Chen, the High Commander began carefully. When humans submitted their proposal for this academy, we expected something different. Oh? Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. Different how? Well, Zixtal's form shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps something more focused on their combat applications. They were designed as war beasts, after all. Dr. Chen's smile took on a knowing quality. Commander, in the time we've worked with Ravagers, we've discovered something fascinating. They're capable of so much more than just fighting. They're intelligent, adaptable, and have an incredible capacity for learning and growth. Why limit them to one role when they could be so much more? Before Zixtal could respond, an alarm chimed on Dr. Chen's tablet. Oh, would you like to observe our advanced problem-solving class? Today they're learning about quantum mechanics. Their what? The High Commander's crystal matrix briefly displayed a color that hadn't been seen since their species discovered that the universe was mostly empty space. Well, we had to start somewhere after they mastered basic physics, Dr. Chen explained, as if teaching erstwhile biological weapons about the fundamental nature of reality was perfectly normal. Though we did have to modify the textbooks slightly. It turns out Ravagers prefer their quantum equations with more illustrations. As they followed Dr. Chen to the next observation area, Zixtal received an update from their staff. Apparently, the Ravager Olympics Committee had just approved a new event called synchronized spacewalking. The High Commander decided that some things were better left unexamined, though they did make a mental note to request tickets for the opening ceremony. Somewhere on Earth, a human was probably teaching a Ravager about string theory. And knowing humans, the beast would probably be publishing peer-reviewed papers by next semester. 3 standard galactic years after the initial incident, High Commander Zixtal found themselves attending the first intergalactic conference on Ravager studies and development, hosted at the newly established Ravager Cultural Center in Geneva. Their crystalline form maintained its diplomatic blue, though occasional flickers of incredulity still showed through. As you can see from the latest data, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez gestured to the holographic display. The Ravager Space Adaptation Program has exceeded all initial projections. Major Tom's team has successfully completed their first orbital maintenance mission, and the European Space Agency is already planning expanded operations. The assembled galactic delegates watched footage of Ravagers performing complex repairs on satellite systems, their specialized spacesuits incorporating advanced sensors and tools. One particularly enthusiastic specimen appeared to be attempting to choreograph a zero-gravity ballet, while waiting for its next assignment. That's Lieutenant Pirouette, Dr. Rodriguez explained, noting Zixtal's questioning flicker. She's passionate about combining work with artistic expression. We've learned to just let her dance between tasks. It's actually improved crew morale significantly. Before the High Commander could process this information, the presentation shifted to a new topic. Project Homeworld Integration, breaking down barriers through shared experience. A elegantly dressed Volpanian delegate raised a clawed hand. Could you explain the significance of this pet therapy program? Of course, Dr. Rodriguez beamed. We found that Ravagers can serve as excellent intermediaries in diplomatic situations. Their ability to form emotional bonds transcends species barriers. In fact, our embassy program has shown remarkable success rates in facilitating interspecies communication and understanding. The presentation showed footage of Ravagers in various diplomatic settings, wearing formal attire and apparently serving as what humans called icebreakers at international functions. One particularly distinguished specimen was shown hosting what appeared to be a tea ceremony for representatives from 17 different species. That's Ambassador Fluffles, Dr. Rodriguez said proudly. She's been instrumental in establishing our cultural exchange programs. Though we did have to modify the traditional tea ceremony slightly to accommodate various atmospheric requirements, and the fact that some participants communicate through bioluminescence. And the success rate? Asked a being composed primarily of electromagnetic waves. Diplomatic incidents have decreased by 73% at functions where Ravager ambassadors are present, Dr. Rodriguez reported. Though we did have that one incident at the Galactic Peace Summit when Ambassador Fluffles got a little too enthusiastic about offering cookies to the gaseous delegation. We've since updated our protocol regarding incorporeal beings and refreshments. The conference hall's attention was suddenly drawn to a commotion in the adjacent exhibition space. Through the transparent walls, they could see a group of Ravagers engaged in what appeared to be an impromptu performance art piece, complete with interpretive dance and what might have been poetry. Ah, that would be our Arts and Culture Division, Dr. Rodriguez explained. They're preparing for next month's Intergalactic Arts Festival. The piece is titled Reflections on the Nature of Predator-Prey Relations in a Postmodern Galactic Society. It's quite avant-garde. The High Commander's form briefly displayed the color of cultural complexity overload before stabilizing. And the musical accompaniment? That's actually a Ravager-composed symphony. They've developed quite an interest in experimental music, though we're still working on helping them understand that not everything needs a bass drop. Before anyone could respond to this revelation, the main doors opened to admit a delegation that caused even the most composed diplomats to do a double take. A group of Ravagers in academic regalia, each carrying what appeared to be research presentations. Perfect timing, Dr. Rodriguez said. These are our doctoral candidates. They're presenting their thesis work today. Their what? The Volpanian delegate's ears twitched in surprise. Oh yes. Once we discovered their capacity for abstract thinking, it seemed only natural to offer them advanced educational opportunities. Though we did have to modify the peer review process slightly. It turns out Ravagers take academic criticism very personally. The presentation screen shifted to display a series of academic achievements, published papers, research grants, and what appeared to be patent applications filed by Ravager human research teams. Dr. Snuggles, yes, the former cocktail specialist, has been particularly productive, Dr. Rodriguez continued. His work on cross-species cognitive development has revolutionized our understanding of xenopsychology. Though we're still trying to convince him that belly rubs as a universal language needs more empirical support before publication. Zixtal's crystal matrix briefly displayed the color of academic astonishment as they reviewed the credentials being presented. These are actual doctoral degrees? Absolutely. Awarded by some of Earth's most prestigious institutions. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. Though we did have to modify the graduation ceremony slightly. Turns out Ravagers really enjoy throwing their caps in the air, sometimes with their teeth. The conference proceedings were interrupted by an announcement. The first Ravager-led space expedition had just successfully completed its mission. The crew, led by the now famous Major Tom, had not only performed their assigned maintenance tasks, but had also composed what they were calling a space opera during their leisure time. They're very creative with their downtime, Dr. Rodriguez explained as the conference hall erupted in excited discussion. Though we're still debating whether to include the zero-gravity dance numbers in the official mission reports. As the presentation continued, Zixtal received an update from their staff. Apparently, the Ravager Academic Council had just proposed establishing their own university. The suggested motto was Scientia et Belly Rubs, knowledge and belly rubs. The High Commander decided that some things were better accepted than understood, though they did make a note to request a copy of that space opera. For cultural research purposes, of course. Somewhere on Earth, a human was probably teaching a Ravager about the unification of quantum mechanics and general relativity. And knowing humans, the beast would probably solve it by next week, probably through an interpretive dance performance. The galaxy would never be the same. But at least the academic journals would be more entertaining. And in the end, isn't that what really matters? The Ravager Higher Education Committee would like to note that all doctoral defenses are conducted with appropriate academic rigor, though they are still working on convincing the philosophy department that, but why, is not, by itself, a sufficient basis for a dissertation, no matter how many times it's repeated. The end.